General Qasem Soleimani has been killed by a U.S. airstrike in Iraq. The 62-year-old spearheaded Iranian military operations in the Middle East as head of Iran's elite Quds Force. He was killed at the Baghdad airport alongside local Iran-backed militias in a strike ordered by U.S. President Donald Trump. Well, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has described the U.S.'s killing of Iran's Revolutionary Guard elite Quds Force leader, General Qasem Soleimani, as extremely dangerous and a foolish escalation. For more on this, we're now joined in our studio by Seyed Hoseini, who is a commentator on Middle Eastern affairs. A very good morning to you, and thank you so very much, sir, for joining us this morning. All right, this meeting to be held now, Iran is holding a meeting with the top security body. Should the U.S. be worried? I mean, there are already talks, and of course this is the first thing you would think is retaliatory attacks. There are already talks and questions by several pundits about where Iran could retaliate. Some suggestions include the Gulf states, including U.S. bases, some saying Gulf waters, for example, tanks and U.S. ships. What's your stance in terms of where the U.S. should be at this point? Should they be worried?
Well, of course, they have opened a can of worms, and I think Trump has made the biggest mistake of its life and also the history of America. I think another scenario worse than Vietnam is waiting for United States. What happened was actually harming the dignity of not only Iraqis but 1 billion Muslims around the world. More than that, General Soleimani, according to the official statistics, is loved even by non-Muslims in all over the world. He is one of the most popular and charismatic hero of so many people around the world, Muslims and non-Muslims. And the loss of Soleimani is not what the end of the story. What they have done is the biggest mistake in their history, and I think already there are trends on Twitter raising the Third World War in a very big scale is coming up, and in the Middle East there is a lot of talk about how this retaliation is going to be, but I think the Iranian government or Iranian security, the Islamic Security Guard will have a lot of options how to deal with the American. Before that, I think the Iraqis are going to deal with the American before Iranian, because what happened is in the territory of Iraq. Today, the Abu Mahdi, the Prime Minister of Iraq, has called this an attack to Iraq's sovereignty. And I think the Iraqi people are not going to cope with what they saw, because we have to remember what Popular Mobilization Force has did for Iraqis. We should not remember the days that the ISIS, which is, by the way, made by United States, supported by United States.
That's actually where I wanted to go. Pardon me, just to interject here. Yes. Pardon me. I just want to say, in terms of ISIS, he had been seen as, one of the more powerful military leaders who were sort of effective in fighting ISIS. So what does that then say about the relationship of the U.S. with ISIS? Because, an enemy of my enemy is my friend, isn't it?
Well, if you look at the history of ISIS and the confessions which has been made by Hillary Clinton when she was the foreign minister, and Trump himself when there was election time and he was fighting against his opponent Hillary Clinton, he was saying that we in the United States, we created ISIS. It's not something that somebody else is going to say. It is the American administration who confessed that ISIS is made by them. And also the reason for that has been also offered by Hillary Clinton, a force which is funded by them, made by them, and giving them money, giving them any type of weapon that you think of, has been actually removed from Iraq by General Soleimani. Also, we have to remember that 2-3 years ago, the ISIS was in the border of Baghdad, the capital. They were about to capture the whole capital city of Iraq. And the Iraqis came to the United States to talk to the ambassador, we need your help. They said, we need 6 months to think about this. And the same day they have called General Soleimani, and without hesitation he said, by all means, today I am going to be there. And in this way, within a couple of years, the ISIS has been removed from Iraq, and I think the Americans are taking revenge of ISIS, losing the ISIS power from General Soleimani and from Hadi al-Amiri. Tomorrow there will be, I think, the biggest funeral of history in Iraq. And when the body of General Soleimani is taken to Iran, I think it's going to be the largest ever funeral of history in Iran after the demise of the Ayatollah Khomeini. When he passed away, we had 4 million people that time. We are expecting over 10 million on the funeral of General Soleimani, which is going to be soon in Iraq. I think American has made the biggest mistake in their history, and if this is not going to be the beginning of Third World War, to me it is going to be a beginning to an end for American presence in the region and American superiority to be broken in the whole world.
And that's where I want to go, in fact. Who in fact must take responsibility of giving America this sort of non-ending power to be able to, conduct these sort of attacks. I mean, you watch even in movies and series, and you'll see the person acting as the president, for example, in the Situation Room, and decisions being made as to who needs to be killed. Is it the world in general that needs to take responsibility for the fact that America perceives itself as this power force and in fact acts out these sort of atrocities where sometimes innocent civilians are even killed as a result of them wanting to kill a certain person?
We must remember that the biggest income of America is by selling weapons. And you must see a documentary which was produced a few years ago when American weapon industry were producing a lot of weapon and they didn't manage to sell it for a few years. So they had a meeting with authorities. I mean, we're paying tax, but our warehouses are full of the weapon which we haven't sold. So they asked for a war. And then the map of the world was there. Where can we start now creating war? Yeah. Here, Europe, no, sorry, we can't. China, don't touch that. Africa, sorry, no money. Where can we have war is Middle East. And that's why they came to Middle East with an accusation of Saddam Hussein of having weapon of mass destruction, which later on it was confirmed that he didn't have. And since that time they have stayed in Iraq as an occupier force. And that is what the Iraqis really understand. So today what they did, they have united the whole Middle East against themselves. From today probably none of the interests of America in the whole Middle East is safe. The strongest messages are coming from Iran, from the supreme leader, from the friends of General Soleimani, from everyone who loved him, that this is going to be a big retaliation. They should expect. Already the American has ordered their embassy staff to go out of Iraq, and PMF already has asked his forces to caucus, and in coming few days the whole Middle East is pregnant with big news, which we have to just hope that the Third World War doesn't start, and we should just wish for everyone to have a safe and secure Middle East, and but still, it is a time for Americans to realize that what they had a dream for Middle East is not going to happen, and the people in Middle East are fed up with their policies, and soon or late they are going to pay for what they have done.
Now, you're quite adamant that this could trigger World War III. And I suppose I should have started here then in terms of, how important really a figure General Soleimani is. I mean, you mentioned the fact that there'll be so many people coming to honor him. I mean, if somebody's killing or death could trigger a world war as you anticipate, perhaps you can paint for us just a clear picture of how respected he is and how big a figure he is, and what led him to being this figure that he was, prior to his demise.
To billions of people, he is a savior. To people of Syria, he is a savior. To people of Iraq, he is a savior. To so many people in Palestine, he is the only hope. For Lebanon, he is the only hope. For Yemenis, he is the only hope.
Yeah.
So the charismatic characteristic of General Soleimani was not built overnight. 42 years of constant struggle is what General Soleimani is. From the time of Iraq and Iran war, that he was a commander-in-chief and he had a brigade. And in that time also he had injured and his life was saved. And then after that, even in Syria, he has been injured.
Yeah.
But then in this time, they have targeted him. And already the whole Middle East is just a tank of petrol. It just needs one strike of a match, and the explosion is going to happen. Already in Congress in America, they are talking about what Trump did was actually starting a war without the permission of Congress. Already his opponent, Joe Biden, said if the aim and objective of Trump was to reduce American killings, this is going to be a completely vice versa result for American troop and American presence in Middle East. And already the agencies, the news agencies, news analyzers in the world are calling this a big news, a big day, a historical moment, which we don't know exactly what is going to happen, but whatever happens, it's going to be something very big in Middle East.
Well, two questions here. The U.S., obviously you would have heard what the U.S. has said in response to this, that they targeted General Soleimani because he's been instrumental in the deaths of hundreds of Americans. And as you rightly put, Trump had said that it's to prevent more American deaths. What is your response to the fact that this is what the Americans are saying in their defense? And then on the back of that question, if Congress is to say to the Middle East, this is not where we stood, as you say, this was not our policy, this is not what we told our president we wanted to happen. If they were to find means to release Trump of his duties, would that be seen by the Middle East as a means of retracting what will essentially then be retaliatory attacks? Is the Middle East saying we want Trump out if we're going to have any kind of talks with America, or are we now too far gone at this stage?
Well, we are too far gone. Which was not supposed to happen, unfortunately happened. Killing of General Soleimani is not a simple issue, which can be forgiven by one person or one army or one nation. The charismatic personality of General Qasem Soleimani was loved by billions of people around the world, and all of them, they have this demand of the taking revenge. And if they take revenge, they are not taking revenge from Trump personally. Coming or going of Trump doesn't change nothing in United States policies, because policies of United States is not written by presidents. It is a system which is ruling. It is the system who helped Saddam. It is the system who helped the United States, who should interfere with every single country's affair. If in Africa they have the right to come, they think they are the police of the world.
Yeah.
And that's why they have the right to do whatever they want. But the story of American in Iraq, or even Israelis in Palestine, is a story of a raper and a thief coming to your house, and you see the presence of a raper and a thief inside your house with a gun in your head, and they claim security. And if you blow them one, they come and go to the police station and lay a charge against you that, sorry, I went to rape him, but he just blew me on my face. That is the story of people of Iraq and the American, people of Palestine and the Israelis, okay? Claiming security where they are not supposed to be there. You are not invited. Who told you to come to Iraq? Who told you to occupy Palestine? And now if you are there and you receive heat, don't complain. That is what you deserve.
All right, so just in terms of the effects now of what's happened, the oil price has reacted, jumping in response to these latest tensions. Presumably, if this remains elevated, this will cause some economic difficulties for countries like our own, South Africa, which is a net importer of oil. Do you see this as just sort of collateral damage? Too bad.
Well, already $4 over the price of the oil today, just at the beginning of the day. The coming days, when the news folding and the new events happen, probably the price of oil will go to, who knows, 100, 200. Amazingly, you know how much Americans are making out of $1 of 1 barrel of oil? I was reading The Economist about 27 years ago.
Yeah.
27 years ago, I was reading this article, which was, the title of that was, Americans are making out of 1 barrel of oil, which that time they were paying $50, $1,000 out of 1 barrel of oil. So I think the news which is unfolding in Middle East is going to be extremely influencing the whole economy of the world, the whole geopolitics of the world. We are, I think, in the eve of rewriting or drawing the plan of the region, and it's far, far, far away from the American dream, from the deal of century, from what they wanted to save the Israelis. What is happening in Middle East is something which really, for years we were expecting that finally there will be a big explosion in this region, and I think that time has already arrived, and unfortunately, with the stupid decision to murder and to kill General Soleimani, that can of worm has been opened, and now American has to deal with the consequences.
Mr. Hoseini, is fighting the only way to respond to this, or is it a case of responding to violence with violence? Is there nothing else to respond with?
Well, the history of the last 4 decades of Islamic revolution in Iran and the resistance of people in Palestine shows that their opponents and their occupiers only understand one language. Unfortunately, they don't understand language of negotiations. Look at what Iran did. They negotiated with the 5+1. But what happened finally? Just one night, American president came out of the agreement with no reason. So that was negotiation. So they don't understand that language. But they understand the language of hitting their unmanned drone. You remember about a few months ago in June when American wanted to invade Iran, and in fact they sent their drone, and one of their drone was down by the Iranian force, which was an impossible job done by Iranian by the way. It flies 68,000 feet. No missile can touch such a drone. And no one was thinking that a $220 million drone can be brought down by the Iranian force. But it was done. And the American got the message that no, we can't play with this nation. But they don't learn from their messages. They don't learn from their mistakes. And I think with the knowledge that I have from General Soleimani and his friends and followers, and the dedication which I see in this popular mobilization force, they are not going to, cope with the situation, and big retaliation are going to be carried out. Let me just explain a little bit about General Soleimani and his humbleness, because I saw him, few times.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but you can give me a brief.
The man who was so charismatic that 2 million people around the world were his lovers. When he was coming to an orphan or to a child of a martyr, he was so humble that you can't imagine. Start crying. That person with that dignity, with that greatness, had a soft heart when he was, facing those people whom they lost their father in the war.
When are we expected to hear then from Iran's top security body? As we know, they are currently
news
in
of
meetings.
folding up to the time that I was coming to you before studio. There was no reaction yet, but probably in the next coming 1 hour, 2 hours, there will be some more news coming out, which, if you want, I can share it with you.
All right. Thank you so very much for giving us your time and the update there. That's
tonight we have a commemoration of General Soleimani at number 121 Collins Street, Brixton.
All right.
Number 121 Collins Street, Brixton. This is the head office of Islamic Center for Africa. I want everyone from South Africa who loves General Soleimani to be present there to pay their homage for the great hero of our world.
All right, thank you very much for that information. I'm sure those people will heed your call. That was Seyed Hoseini, who is an expert on Iranian affairs, talking to us about the killing then of Major General Qasem Soleimani, who was killed by U.S. forces. And of course, we're expecting those retaliatory attacks. And as of course was mentioned, that they are in meetings, of course, the Iran's top military security body. We will certainly get you more information and more on this later on.